Welcome to Todos Somos Toastmasters. I am Andrea Clemente from District 34, Mexico. Today we have a very special guest, Jim Key, the world champion of 2003. Jim is a proud member of Lexington International Toastmasters. Jim believes the Toastmaster speech contests are a great way to rapidly improve your speaking skills. In 2003, Jim Key became the world champion of public speaking at Toastmasters International Convention in Atlanta, Georgia. His speech, Never Too Late, described how it's never too late to follow our dreams, regardless of the difficulty and disappointment we face in life. He spoke from experience. This was Key's third attempt of winning the World Championship. He's been one of the 9 finalists for 3 years, coming in second in 2001 and 2002. Jim is a keynote speaker and trainer from Canada to Kuwait, from New Zealand to Mexico, and many places in between. Welcome, Jim. It's an honor to have you with us.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope that from the things that we share, people will be able to learn and improve their speaking ability and their confidence as well.
Perfect.
So it's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. So the first question, who is Jim Key?
Well, I will answer that question in a couple of different ways, some that are personal and some that is professional, because everyone is made up of all aspects of their life. So from a personal standpoint, I am a husband and a father. I've got 3 beautiful children that are not so much children anymore. They're a little bit older. My youngest is a 17-year-old daughter, and then I have 2 older sons. I have a love of technology and comedy and sports and music. I'm a musician as well. I play bass guitar and drums. I love traveling, and see, what else do I need to share from a personal perspective? Let's see. I've been a Toastmaster for, at this point, about 14 and a half years, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my membership.
Okay.
From a professional standpoint, I am an IT professional. My university training was in computer information systems, and I've worked in that field for 20 plus years. And then also, with my own business, I do speaking and consulting as well. So I have a lot of things going on.
Wow, it's impressive. So, but tell us, why did you join Toastmasters? And if you could also share with us, what was the journey to the World Championship? What made you join this contest?
Okay. Well, the first part of that question, why did I join Toastmasters? Several years prior to joining, I was in the audience for a couple of different business conventions, and I heard 2 outstanding speakers. It was Zig Ziglar and Les Brown. And I saw beyond just the moment when they delivered their speech, I saw people that I worked with taking things they had learned and applying them in their life and in their profession and making a positive difference. And I just remember thinking, I want to do what they are doing, what Les and Zig are doing. And so I contacted both of their offices and asked what they would recommend. And they both said, before you do anything in the speaking business, polish your presentation skills. And they both gave several recommendations, and on that list of recommendations was Toastmasters. So I visited a club just maybe a year later, and I did not join because the club, that particular club, did not strike me as encouraging and supportive, and so I did not join. Several years later, I visited another club, and it was very warm and encouraging and supportive, so I joined that club. So that's what brought me to Toastmasters to begin with. As far as my journey to the World Championships is concerned, I have always been a very competitive person, and I knew that any time I've been involved in competition before, whether it's in athletics or academics, I've known that when I get in a competitive situation, I push myself harder to improve quickly and to become as good as I can become. So I knew that when if I got involved in the speech contest, that I would push myself to rapidly improve. I would pour more energy and focus into writing and getting feedback and practicing and just becoming all around better as a writer and as a speaker. So I got involved in the contest for that reason. I initially got involved in the humorous speech contest, but then I got in the international speech contest in 2001, and it was a very, very intense journey. I took it very seriously, and I devoted quite a few hours to writing and practicing and researching and going through the list of topics that I could possibly speak about and find out. But one of the biggest benefits to me in the early stages was from my home club, because we had some very good evaluators, but we also had people who, on several occasions, they would pull me aside after a speech and they would tell me, that speech is really good. You should put a little note on your folder you keep it in to possibly consider it for a contest. So they would kind of give me some
feedback,
encouragement to consider, and good feedback that helped me really hone my skills a lot more quickly.
Did you read some books or did you contact some champions?
Well, in the early stages of my competing, I did not contact the world champions simply because I did not know that I could. I got involved. There were some people in my district who I thought would be good mentors, and so I enlisted their assistance. And then I watched a lot of videos from past world championships and read some books. At the point in which I had gotten past my district level, I did reach out to some of the champions. In the first years, it was just for general questions about the type of topic I should use or what I might experience during the championship. In the later years, I actually enlisted some of them to help me with my speech and specifics about how my writing was and all of that. But what I identified in those people from my home district that would serve as good mentors is I found people whose abilities, whose skills, and their accomplishments I respected. There was a woman in my district who was an excellent speaker, and so I asked her if she would spend a little bit of time with me. Obviously, a mentor has to be somebody who is available.
Okay.
And she was available for me. And then I always respected her time, because if she was going to give me an hour or 2 hours, I wanted to make sure I was ready and I got the most out of that time and did not disrespect her time in any way.
Okay.
So that's what I looked at for selecting a mentor. If you are doing something that needs to be corrected, or if it can be made more effective, a good mentor will help you. It is good when you get evaluations from your local Toastmasters club, but sometimes those evaluations may not go as in depth as you need. I mean, evaluations in clubs can only be 2 to 3 minutes, or maybe a little bit more time might be needed to kind of coach you through some of those things, and that's where a good mentor can do that for you.
The city of Speaking Secrets of the Champions, you mentioned hard power. So how did you develop hard power?
Well, there's not an exact formula for how to develop the ability to speak with hard power. I think it starts with a desire to connect with people on a personal level. It requires you being willing to speak not only from an intellectual perspective, but also from an emotional perspective. You've got to be willing to be vulnerable with your audience, to share some of your imperfection, and you do that while sharing a message that is ultimately for the audience's benefit. So I don't know. I can't give you a step 1, 2, and 3 of how to develop hard power. It has to begin with an attitude that you want to benefit people, and you want to speak on a personal level, similar to how you would if you were just sitting down with one person and having a conversation.
When you enter to a contest, you mentioned that you don't have to focus on the trophy. How do you know that you touch the heart of people?
Well, there's a process, I guess, that areas had I grown in, and then how could those things broadly appeal to a number of people? There is no guarantee when you speak to any audience that your message is going to resonate with every single person, but I tried to pick the topics that were broadly relatable, and then develop that from that point. That is where good mentoring can help, because I could get another perspective besides my own to let me know, do you think this will be broadly appealing? Can people be able to relate, or will they be able to relate to this? And so that's where having a mentor can help you in that regard. There are some things, there are certain emotions and certain experiences that are just common. Everybody at some point has experienced happiness or grief, joy or sadness, and so if you speak on topics that can touch on common and relatable emotions and common or relatable experiences, then those things can be broadly relatable. When they are relatable, they have a greater chance of impacting someone's life in a meaningful way.
How do you know your message has the impact that you want?
Okay. Well, there were two ways that I collected feedback when I was practicing. And I did practice at many Toastmasters clubs. And in the early stages of my speech, I would ask for what we call here in my district round-robin evaluations. And that basically means we go around the room and everyone has the chance to just offer a little piece of feedback. And what that gives me is a very broad picture of what things are standing out in the speech. Because my experience is, if you have, let's say you have a room with 20 people in it, and you start on one side of the room getting feedback and going around the room, the people who are near the end of the feedback are not going to want to just simply say the same things they heard at the beginning feedback. So you get a very broad range of feedback. I did that in the very early stages. When I started moving further along in my speech development, I would not ask for oral evaluations at all. I would give a form, a little piece of paper, and it basically had two questions. It said, what grabbed your attention and what inspired you? And then it had a spot for comments as well. But that way, if you could not hear what another evaluator was saying, you would just write what impacted you, what got your attention, what inspired you. And so then I could collect those, and I could see if there were any trends. If some of the, if a lot of people said the same things got their attention or the same things inspired them, then I would know those things were impacting a large number of people. So those were the two ways I kind of changed the receiving of my feedback. One where I got input from a lot of people verbally, and then one where I got everyone to write down their comments privately, and then I could see the trends that were in the feedback.
Okay, perfect.
And that helped me to know this is impacting people.
Perfect. So, and also we know that you also record your videos, but I think the first time you didn't check all of them, or what is your comment about this?
Well, one of the things I recommend that people do is record themselves, because even if you get great evaluations, your evaluators may not share everything, and you may notice something when you watch the recording. And I knew I would benefit by recording myself, but in the first year when I competed in 2001, I recorded some of my practice sessions, but I barely watched any of them. And it doesn't really help you if you're not studying it, if you're not reviewing it to find out where your improvements can be made. In my second year of competing in 2002, I recorded a lot more of my practices than I did the previous year, and I watched more of them, but I didn't really watch a lot of them. In 2003, and I think this is where I really, my improvement really increased. I recorded just about every single practice. Some of them I recorded video, some of them I only recorded audio, but I would go back and I would study each of the recordings. I would watch them more than one time. I would take notes as I was watching them so that I could incorporate those things, and I really made it a point to study them a lot more. That helped me know what sort of visual impression I was making, how my voice sounded, if I did any gestures repeatedly that I didn't think of, I didn't realize I was doing them. It just put a lot more things in front on my awareness so that I could improve those things. So I very much recommend to people, record yourself when you speak and go back and study and watch those recordings so that you can improve quickly as well.
Perfect. And I also read your speech, and when I saw your speech, I noticed that it was similar to a theater piece, right? You have the characters and you also have the intentions. So what is your recommendation? I mean, when somebody is writing a speech, even if it's for a contest or, just to present with an audience or to work. So what could be your advice based on your final speech?
As far as the use of characters and such, I use a storytelling model. The way that I've heard it recommended by my mentor, one of my mentors, David Brooke, and by others, is to tell a story and then make a point, or you may want to make the point first and then tell the story. But I use that in how I speak. So as I'm crafting a speech, my speech will be a couple of small stories, similar, as you referred, to maybe something in theater. But there will be characters in those stories. There will be dialogue. There may be a particular setting that I need to describe. But I do that because people tend to remember stories better than they will just information or data. And so I crafted my speech in that way. I would tell a small little piece of a story, and then I would use the message of that story or something I could draw from it to make a significant point in the overall speech. So I purposefully use characters and use settings similar to theater to basically tell the story. Because theater productions, they essentially tell you a story, and so do speeches in a different way, however. So that is why I crafted my speeches in that way.
Wonderful. And did you recommend some books about storytelling?
Well, I don't know if the books that I have that I normally recommend are specific to storytelling, as they are just some general speaking tips. One of my favorites is a book called Speak Like Churchill, Stand Like Lincoln by a writer named James Humes. I also enjoy books by John Maxwell, who's got a number of books on leadership and on communication, as well as Stephen Covey, both the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then the book he put out after that called The 8th Habit. But I also happened upon a speaker that I really enjoy listening to, who has just come out with a book. Her name is Suzanne Evans, and the name of the book is The Way You Do Anything is the Way You Do Everything. And I would recommend those books. That would be very helpful to people.
This is the first part of the interview with Jim Key. If you want to know more about him, follow us in another chapter of Piensa como un campeón.